Hi. Session 12 writing task is to write a letter requesting a post-delivery care for Miss Nicole Smith who delivered her first child. Here, you are a nurse looking after Miss Nicole Smith who has just given birth to her first child at the Spirit Mothers Hospital in Brisbane, and the letter is written to the Director of Community Child Health Service requesting a home visit to provide advice and assistance for Nicole and her baby. Let us look into the case note first. If we look into the case note in detail, we can see there are two dates given. That is the admission date and the discharge date. Here the admission date is irrelevant and not to be mentioned in the letter. The details of the patient given are Miss Nicole Smith, address Flat 4, Matthew Street, West End 4101, date of birth 4th September 1991, single and born in Australia. Here, the name and age are important and should be mentioned in the reference, and the marital status, single, can be added with a social or family background. In the social background, not all this information are vital. You can omit the information like she does not know current address of the child's father and there are no family members in Brisbane and her parents and sister live in Rockhampton. This information is irrelevant because this doesn't have any consequence on the service or the service provider. But certainly need to mention she has no contact with the family and father of the child. So it gives much better understanding about the condition of the patient. In the medical history, there is no need of writing about her past medical treatments, like she had appendectomy when she was 15 years old, but all other information are relevant and should be mentioned in the letter. All the points mentioned in the obstetric history are important and should be mentioned in the letter, but the writer can avoid the usage of numerical used in the case note while framing as a sentence. It would be better if the writer could encompass all this information in one or two sentences. The only relevant information given in the birth details section is the mode of delivery and the reason for it. This information is very important and should emphasize in the letter with much importance because this information shows the type of care to be given to the patient after discharge. In the baby details, the only information needed here is the gender, weight, and Apgar score of the baby. If possible, try to avoid the numerical in the Apgar score and write it in words like whether the score is good or bad, and all other information can be omitted because they are irrelevant and will not affect the service requesting for. In the postnatal progress, there are a lot of information given and all the points are to be mentioned in the letter except maybe the hemoglobin level and the weight of the baby at the time of discharge. All other points have to be mentioned in the letter and that too in an organized manner. Even though the case note shows simple points, the writer should merge two or more points into a single sentence to construct a complex compound or compound complex sentences. Here, the writer can join the information which has a common meaning. Using complex or compound sentences in your letter, you can get good scores. Taking all these points in mind, we have to prepare a letter. Now, let us see how we can write a letter with the help of a sample letter written by a candidate from India. The address is almost correct except an article "the" is missing in front of the designation. When we write a letter, especially when we are saluting the designation, we have to put the article "the." Therefore, it should be the Director, Community Child Health Service, Matthew Street, West End 4101. The date written here is 3rd November 2019. When you write a date in letter, you must ensure to write the date in 2-digit format. So the writer must use 03 instead of just 3. Then the date becomes 03 November, 2019. The salutation, Dear Director, is correct. Then the reference, RE: Miss Nicole Smith, aged 18 years. Here the word aged is not necessary and the writer could have opted out that. Another important mistake is that the writer is missing space in between words in many places and it becomes very obvious when we come to the body paragraph. Coming to the introduction, I am writing this letter to request home visit for Miss Nicole Smith, who delivered a baby boy and needs your further assistance and postnatal care after discharge today. Here, I would like to point out a few mistakes. First of all, we don't have to write this letter since the writer and the reader knows it and it can be avoided. Then it becomes, I am writing to request home visit for Miss Nicole Smith, who delivered a baby boy and requires your further assistance and postnatal care after discharge on. Then you have to mention the date of discharge over here instead of simply saying today, and the word needs to be replaced with requires, which is a more appropriate usage. Therefore, the introduction can be rewritten as, I am writing to request home visit to Miss Nicole Smith, who delivered a baby boy and requires your further assistance and postnatal care after her discharge on 13th September 2009. Since 13th September 2009 is the discharge date mentioned in the case note. Moving to the second paragraph, Miss Smith had emergency cesarean section due to fetal distress and failure to progress. Space between Miss Smith and the auxiliary verb had and an in front of emergency cesarean section. The second sentence, she delivered to a 4.4 kg weighted boy. Here delivered to is wrong and should use she delivered. And the sentence becomes, she delivered a boy with a birth weight of 4.4 kg with good APGAR score. It is not that mandatory to mention the date of delivery because it doesn't affect the service being offered after her discharge. Here, the writer has mentioned an irrelevant date and missed an important date, that is discharge date. Post-operatively, she had postpartum hemorrhage which subsided and was prescribed with iron supplement and vitamin C because of low hemoglobin. Here, the writer has mentioned postpartum hemorrhage but haven't mentioned the amount of blood loss, which is clearly mentioned in the case note, which is around 800 ml of postpartum hemorrhage. So we have to mention that value in the sentence. The last sentence, she preferred bottle feeding than breastfeeding. Here the writer again missed the space between she and preferred. It would be much better to write to instead of than here. Then the sentence reads, she preferred bottle feed to breastfeed as she was not confident enough as well as for bathing and carrying her baby. Moving to the second last paragraph, Miss Smith is a single mother and has no contact with her family members including the child's father. She lives in a rented shared flat with another woman and receives sole parent benefit. In this way, you can avoid writing single mother because rest of the sentence clearly mentions that she has no contact with the father of the child and she receives sole parent benefit. The last sentence, she has good general health and is a known smoker. Here comes an illogical error because these two sentences are quite different and the writer has connected them with and. If you want to specify an idea or information that she is a known smoker, you can move this piece of information to the first of the sentence. Then the sentence of the paragraph becomes, Miss Smith, a known smoker who has no contact with her family members, including the child's father. She lives in rented shared flat with another woman and receives sole parent benefits. She has good general health during the time of discharge. Coming to the wind-up paragraph, it will be greatly appreciated if you could provide necessary need as she lives alone and doesn't have anyone to support, which is quite okay. The last sentence, please contact me if you have any queries. It would be better to avoid very short and meaningless sentences. If the name of the patient was added along with the sentence, it would have been much impressive. Therefore, the last sentence can be written as, please contact me if you have any queries regarding Miss Smith. In the sign off, the writer has written as yours sincerely, which is wrong. It should have been yours sincerely, and charged nurse, which is also wrong. It should be charged nurse. These are the minor mistakes the writer has written in this letter. I would suggest the writer to add a bit more information like the baby is alright, no jaundice, but the writer had here just mentioned she has good general health and nothing on baby's health condition, which should have been added in the letter. Other than these minute mistakes, the letter has kept a better quality by mentioning most of the relevant information and it's properly organized. That's about this letter. Thank you.
New method for OET learning. How are you preparing? Online or offline? For speaking and writing, you can get tutor reviews. How will you be able to manage your reading and listening? How can you manage your self-practice easier than ever before? Learn OET in Merlin's way. Most successful OET learning method from world's best online trainer. Chat now, mentormerlinexam.com.